Hey, it looks sharp. So 5 steps to an authentic and effective self-image, right? Now, those sound like fancy words, right? Self-image. You hear it all the time. Self-image, self-image. Let's make sure that we identify what self-image is correctly. Your immediate self-image is like you're a parent, you're a worker, you're a friend, you're intelligent, you're impatient, stubborn. It's just that thing that you identify with, kind of that knee-jerk reaction. But one thing you have to be careful with that knee-jerk reaction is to make sure that it doesn't box you in. When you really figure out who you are and how you identify yourself as a person, you automatically start living authentically. And it's easy. When you do see people like the life coaches, most of the time it's just them identifying who they are to the point that they know without a doubt that they are authentically themselves and nobody else. And it creates kind of like this peace that you carry with you throughout the day. There's no inner struggle, there's no inner battle. Now, the tricky thing with it though, you have to always work at it, because the way that we live and the outside influences that we have on a daily basis, from work to home to friends to Twitch, can easily change what our self-image is, because you have so many outside factors telling you what you should and shouldn't be. Feel free for participation. Feel free to chime in if you want. If not, that's okay too. I will just kind of give you an idea of how I self-identify and then see if it's something that you can relate to. And if not, just kind of have that inner discussion with yourself and see how you would answer this too. And remember, there's no bad answer. For me, I used to hate identifying as a nerd, especially back when gaming was not what it is today. Back then, it was something that kids would make fun of me about. I would get bullied, and so I would try to hide this very predominant thing of who I was. I loved gaming. I loved discovering new worlds and new stories, but I had to kind of suppress that. And that's why growing up, I felt an inner struggle of being who I wanted to be and being what other people told me I had to be. So for me, granted, those things, obviously as I was writing the slides, as I was thinking of an answer, those things all apply to me. Obviously, I'm a gamer, I'm a nerd, I'm a streamer, I'm a crafter. You can self-identify and have your self-image to be multiple things. You have like all of these different avenues. It's not one linear thing. It's like branches out. If you think for a moment, if you take a pause, if you try to change those answers to all false things. So like, let's say if I told myself right now, I'm a sports nerd, I love building engines, I like whitewater rafting. You notice how hard it is to say things that are totally false about who you are? Like, it's hard. It's hard to think of something because inside it goes against everything of who you are. It's harder to say what your self-image is when you're trying to be something that you're not. As you kind of think about it, remember that it can go both ways, of either the knee-jerk reaction of I'm a nerd, I'm a gamer, I'm a streamer, I'm a crafter. But sometimes those knee-jerk reactions can be a fight or flight response, where we want to say the right answer and we hesitate and quickly just answer something that somebody wants to hear. If it does take you a minute to answer, it's okay, because your self-image can change every day. So when you think about it, if for a minute you're like, I really don't know. When I think about who I am, I'm not sure. Then that's fine. That tells you that you've got some thinking to do to really figure out what your answer is going to be. And it's worth asking yourself each day, who am I and what do I see as my self-image and how I project who I am? When you try to emulate what other people tell you that you should be, you're going to notice that a lot of nasty stuff comes to the surface. You're going to notice that you feel a state of pressure, like you're chasing something that you just can never touch. Always always out of reach. You're always trying, and it just feels like no matter how much effort you put into it, you just can't get there. And that sucks. But when you feel that, it's nothing that you did wrong. It's actually a matter of you rethinking what your self-image is and how you are living authentic to your true self-image. So if you feel things of intense pressure, intense anxiety, if you feel guilty for doing the things that you love, or if you feel ashamed that you feel like your family doesn't accept a part that you really identify with, when you start to feel those things, just know that your body is automatically responding physically, chemically, by letting you know that something is wrong. The way that you see yourself and the way that you think you're trying to live authentically by somebody else's standards, these emotions come up, and they come up a lot, and they come up in different ways. It could be work-related anxiety. It could be anxiety walking into your house, to your family. It can come a lot of different ways, and it will hit you a lot of different ways. And sometimes it's hard to see because we're so used to being told that that feeling is actually what's supposed to drive us. Other ways that we try to live up to other people's expectations, you kind of have to catch yourself doing it because it's really easy. That constant dread where you're trying to be that likable person in a group of very toxic people. Comparing yourselves to others. This is especially big with streamers. You can fall into that hole very easy. Comparing your channel to theirs, viewers to theirs, even their overlays. It's really easy to fall into comparing your life because you feel like you want to grade yourself. How am I doing? How am I stacking up to this person? Thinking that that comparison is going to help you figure out if you're doing good or not, when really that's not the case. You're not scoring yourself. In a weird way, you're finding a way to knock yourself down a peg by finding things of others that are oh so great to reaffirm that you're not where you want to be. And because of that, it goes back to the constantly feeling unfulfilled because you're always trying to bend and move and sway and go based off of what somebody else is doing. And you're chasing the next thing, and you're chasing the next influencer, and you're chasing the next stream, and you're chasing the next, and it just keeps going. One of the things for me, I was actually really introverted growing up. So kind of going back to, where being a nerd back in the day is nothing like what it is today. And especially for a girl to like video games, like who does that? I kept a lot of it in. I kept a lot of who I was in. I was afraid. And I was still picked on. I was still this kid in the school that everybody picked on and beat up, fun to laugh at, no matter what I did. And I carried that all the way through high school. Couldn't wait to graduate. And unfortunately, I had a smack of reality that when I got out of school, being in the workplace is not a whole lot different. You got cliques, you got people judging you, and what sucks is you need that paycheck. So you have to go to that place and you have to interact with those people. So we talked about 5 things, right? So let's actually go through them. And if you want to actually write this down, write it, if you want to do it on a pad and paper, you can. I will tell you, so we're digital folk, right? Don't get me wrong. Notepad, for y'all that watch Devin Nash, we got the notepads, right? That's fine. There is something, though, about actually writing it with your hand. It sounds cheesy considering the age that we're in, but there is actually a benefit to it. So if you feel compelled to actually write it down, I would highly encourage it. The first thing we have to do, obviously, is we have to identify what those core values are. Be careful, though, because we've been so conditioned for our core values to be forced to be mirrored to somebody else's. Make sure that you're taking the time to really assure yourself and know without a doubt that your core values are yours and not what somebody else tells you they should be. It's a very slippery slope, but it's important that this is your foundation to make sure that you're being authentic. So make the list as long as humanly possible. Just have a brain dump and just start writing things that just come to mind, but really think about it. Or if you just want to sit and think about it. I mean, for me, a core value, inclusiveness. One of the things that I can't stand, anything that reminds me of things that I went through when things weren't so great. And I would go to events, these make friends events. And no matter how much I tried to be me, I always seemed to be like the one in the corner. I didn't put myself in the corner. It just kind of happened. And it became paralyzing event after event, different groups of people, different times of the year. And I told myself, okay, I don't want anybody to feel this way. So I'm going to make every opportunity I can to make sure that when I'm with a group of people, that I make every effort to check in with them, make sure they're okay, make sure they have what they need, and make sure they're enjoying themselves. So for me, that is really deeply rooted in who I am. So those are the kind of things that you want to think about. So now you have this gigantic list. So now what can you do to actually reduce that list to, say, top 10? But really think about like what your top 10 would be for you. And of course, my favorite line, the struggle is real. This isn't an easy thing. This, like I said, this is the foundation. Foundation's always the hardest. The longer you spend on this, it will be easier for you to come back to this because this is solid. Once you've got this locked in, it's fine. But that's why it's also the hardest. It could take time. This isn't like a 5-minute thing. And remember, this constantly changes. Now you got that list of 10, right? Cool. Now what? So now you actually want to compare what's in that list and find where the conflicts are. If you say that you love hiking or you have a sense of adventure, seeing the world, traveling, experiencing life out and about is part of who you are as your foundation. But at the same time, all you want to do is sit on the couch and cuddle under the covers, which ain't wrong either, but it's a conflict. How do you achieve one without sacrificing the other? What happens is when you have these two in that list, so we'll use like the going out and exploring and then the cuddled up on the couch. It's okay to have those in your list, but what you have to watch out for is when those conflicts happen, guess what happens? You do neither of them, or you'll feel bad about doing one of them. You'll sit on the couch and feel bad that you're not getting out and seeing the sights, or you'll go out and see the sights and say, man, I can't wait to be home. And so you'll just sit there and like go back and forth in your head of like, which one should I do? And what you'll end up doing is neither. You'll do something totally different because you don't know what to do. You're stuck. When that happens, it may be worth reevaluating that list just to make sure which has a greater pull for you, because the struggle is real. So if you actually say, you know what, I love sitting on the couch. I mean, who doesn't? But you tell yourself, you know what, the days are going by and I'm not getting any younger and life is short. I feel more of a pull to be adventurous, going out and seeing the sights speaks truer to me than sitting on the couch. Sitting on the couch is just, for me, sitting on the couch is my excuse to not make effort. So really going out and doing things is really is my core value. I just have to engage myself to go do it. Really look at that list and see where those conflicts are, because then you have to have that conversation with yourself of which one speaks truer to me. And that's where you're going to have to maybe change that list. So this is basically just like what we were talking about. If you have things that conflict with each other, it's just going to cause you to kind of freeze. And then you're going to wake up one morning and 6 months have gone by, especially with the year that we've had. I think a lot of people are feeling that way right now. You can definitely like this kind of stuff is obviously not when we're in the state of the world that we're living in right now. So you get to give yourself a pass with everything that's going on. But think about when it's not these times, but think about how perfect example. How many? 4 months? 4 months to get the stream up? Who do I have to answer for that? Because I became paralyzed. I mean, we're not going out. There's no reason that it took me this long to get this going. I had plenty of things to tell me to wait. It's very real and it very much happens. So now here's the tough conversation. Now that you've really looked at these values and really thinking about what you thought were your values before, are they your own? With the world that we live in right now, with the advertising that we have now, YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, social media, even the way we play video games and the etiquette with that, or the lack thereof, all those things can really change what we think are our values. Make sure that you're kind of checking in with yourself and saying, are these values my own, or am I just defaulting to what somebody else is saying that they should be? All right, so now you got the list, you've looked at the conflicts, you've really figured out what your foundation is for you. That's nice. So now what are we going to do with them? This is where we actually got to do something with them. Can't just make the list and be done. You got to do something with them, all right? Let's go with the streaming part. And you say, I want this camera, I want this mic, I want this mixer, I want better monitor, I want this graphics card. Because your core value is that you are passionate about making streaming a big part of your life. But now what are you going to do? If you've identified that that's your core value, one of your core values, then budgeting's got to start. You've got to create an action plan. can. And there's tons of budgeting material out there. So make sure that you actually have a plan of how you're going to get from point A to point B. Or if you are passionate about a subject, but you don't really know a whole lot about it, well, don't just stay in mediocrity on a subject that you're passionate about. If it's a part of who you are and you identify that this is important to you, then really embrace it and envelop yourself in it and take some courses, not because you're trying to prove a point, but because you really like that subject and you just want to know more for the sake of knowing more. And we obviously know that there is a ton of videos on YouTube. There's plenty of information out there. Plenty. So it's not about a matter of like having money to go do courses. If you want to learn about something or be better at something, chances are that there's a bunch of YouTube channels out there that is going to provide that information for you. Or let's say you want to be a musician, but you only ever sit with your guitar once a week, once every other week, when really you know, the only way that you're going to get better at it is by actually putting in that time and practicing. You know, you just got to buckle down and do it because it's a part of who you are and it's what you identify with. You got to make sure that you feel fulfilled with it too. So you know that you got to tell yourself that there's got to be action behind that passion. With those core values, right? How you self-identify, what is important to you. It doesn't have to be all hard work and no play. You can interweave it into your life, into things that you enjoy. Because if it's a part of who you are, you better freaking enjoy them. I don't know about you, but I don't want to be miserable with who I identify as. Say you love helping people. You get a thrill off of giving. You just like seeing people light up. You like helping others. Well, great. Then get involved in a charity. Go serve food to the homeless. Like actually find ways to create activities in your life that are enriching, but are also fulfilling that list, right? Or like if you are wanting to study on a subject, it doesn't have to be a grind. If it's something you're passionate about and it speaks to everything that you are, it should never feel like a grind, but you got to put in that effort. Or just say you're a busybody and you like going around, making friends, going on Twitch, meeting some pretty cool people. See you all in the chat over there. If that's something that speaks to you, then do it. Show up, participate, be involved, get to know the streamer that you enjoy or the YouTube channel that you enjoy, interact, participate. But you have to weave yourself into it to be a part of that community. Remember how we said that this is always changing. So make sure that you kind of have a check with yourself every day. And this can be as you're going to lay down for the night. This doesn't have to be something you sit at a table and do homework on, but it's just kind of that mental check with yourself and say okay, are my values really who I am and not someone else's? Or did I allow somebody to influence and shift my values? Do I need to kind of reel it back in? Do I have any type of inner conflict with those values? Is value A pulling me apart from value B? And then have that conversation with yourself of, okay, what is really important to me? And then make sure that you're actually planning stuff that interweaves those values. And that sometimes can be tricky because it's easy for us to just say, well, there's nothing. I can't find a course. Nobody's online. I just don't feel like it. That is generally the hardest one. When you kind of force yourself to do it and get that repetition going, you'll be looking for the next activity. You'll be finding the next thing. You'll be scouring the internet for that subject. But you have to drive yourself to do it. The big takeaway is that while people talk about authenticity and your self-worth and your values and all these, the same words that you hear all the time, right? The takeaway is that authenticity is not easy. What is easy is just having somebody else tell us how we should be or who we are. It is not easy to be authentic. Keep that in mind when you tell yourself, of course, I'm just being me. This is who I am. No big deal. Really have that conversation with yourself. When you really start to feel authentic, you start to feel bold and you take chances that you normally wouldn't take because nobody else is telling you to do it but yourself. So,